So good. We are live. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jeff St. Laurent, and I am busting at the seams because I have my fantastic mentor coaching client on. I'm going to pull in her just in a second and introduce her. Let me get to that quickly because I'm excited for this. Anyways, I record all of my live shows. I put them on my website, sellingcoaching.com. If you want to get in there, check out my university for some resources. I help coaches transition to a full-time business and beyond. And now we have someone who has a legitimate full-time business, earning a legitimate full-time income. Donna Starr, welcome to the live show for the second time.
I know. I might feel like I'm on SNL and I might get like a t-shirt if I get on one more time.
That would be pretty cool if this gets to be like SNL, right? So yeah. I want to jump right in with this. So Donna, she was here at another date when she started off her business. We've been working together on and off for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep track after a while. But this last year, I got an email at the cross of the new year, or well, earlier, like I think, I forget, it was like October, November. You're like, Jeff, I think I'm going to break 6 figures this year. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden after the new year goes by, like I blew by it. And so this isn't about the money, but this is about, for the coaches watching this, I really love to bring my students back on, when they're doing something great after the initial thing, to say like, listen, this is possible. And to just have a relaxed conversation and a discussion around like, so what's been going on that enabled you to do this, and where, and what does the future look like for it? So we were starting to just have a great conversation. I'm like, oh my God, I wish we had just gone live right away. But so first off, congratulations, Donna.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's huge. Talk about kind of this last year, and what was it like for you? What were some of the things you're doing? Just kind of give people an idea of, behind the scenes of In the Making, the mindset, the activities. I just want to see where you go with it.
Yeah. I mean, that was my second full year in coaching, right? I went to IPEC in 2019, July. So this year will be 3 years in July that I've actually even been in the field. And, I just did the work. I mean, you have to be consistent, and you taught me that. So the writing every 2 weeks in my email list, that's because of you. And keeping track of all my activity, that's because of you. And realizing that every action doesn't cause a reaction right away, that we're planting seeds, that's because of you. And so I did all that, and I had more of a groove this year. So I had a percentage of my business that was one-on-one coaching. And for anybody that's new to coaching, I love one-on-one coaching. I don't know if this is going to be a popular statement, and I didn't okay this with you, Jeff, but if you really want a 6-figure business, really hard to do it just on one-on-one coaching. This is my personal opinion. And yeah, I would just leave that there, and you can ask me a follow-up if you want. Group coaching I started to do. So I've created 2 group coaching programs. I've done workshops in corporate. And I just kind of opened myself up to the possibilities, that there are possibilities everywhere. And I just go with that. If you can present in a small group, then you can do a corporate workshop, or you can speak for free at your local community engagement project. So just putting yourself out there, being visible, I think has really helped me. And consistency is the underlying piece of all of that.
Yeah, talk about say what you say. There's no statements that need to be approved. This has been your journey and experience.
Yeah.
Not all experiences happen the same way.
Right.
And so talk about the tracking. You're like, I track everything, and that's because of you. Talk about that. That's a big thing that I talk to my students, and then some people, they like you took to it. Some people don't do it, and then I bring them back to it, and they're like, oh, this is helpful. Talk about that.
Well, I came from a corporate background, so keeping a spreadsheet of my activity seemed like very logical. And then I color coded, whether it was a marketing activity, like, is this a client? Is this a referral? Because you actually told me to keep track of how I was getting my clients. I think in the beginning, we really rely a lot on referrals, right? Because we are starting out new and we try things. So I keep track of every conversation that I have. I date it, I spreadsheet it. And in the beginning, when I was working with you, I sent you a spreadsheet, I think every Friday, just so I would be accountable for my activity. And I'm not as vigilant about it today because I have a lot of activity and I have a full coaching practice. But because I want my ICF certifications, I keep track of all my clients and all my hours.
Yeah.
And then I have a file for proposals and for prospects. So that was a huge part of my journey, is to keep track of everything. And then you can revisit it. Oh, I haven't heard from this client in 6 months. And then you just send them a note, or if they're on your email list. So, lead nurturing is a huge part of what we do.
Absolutely. So now you're in your business, you got one-on-ones, you started doing some group stuff as well. What's allowed you to really hone in on the revenue piece of it? And as you're talking, and I know this about you, but someone listening, hopefully they're starting to hear, you understand your business. You understand where your revenue is coming from.
I do.
You understand what you're doing to get your revenue. Talk about that process a little bit. Like, you have a good business acumen for this.
I do. And, I don't want to scare anybody to thinking that you have to have a good business acumen to be a coach, but it is a huge part of the business. That coaching is only a certain part of the actual business. We all just want to coach, but the reality is there's more to it than that. How are you going to market yourself? What's your business model look like? What do you want to make? What do you need to make for a living? How do you get there? So with the end in mind, right? And I always knew that I wanted this to be my full-time job, which is why I went to you, Jeff, because you help people transition. So I know where my business is coming from, and it's more than just revenue for me. So I love one-on-one coaching, but I found after a year or two that having 4 or 5 coaching appointments, one-on-ones a day, not that I had that every day, but the days I had that, I was fried, completely fried. Not because I didn't love my coaching, but it's an exchange of energy when you're coaching somebody, right? And I know when you used to coach me, I would shake on the phone with you because you had so much energy, which is why I thought we were a good match. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get all this in, so I knew that wasn't going to be enough for me when I ran my numbers. And then pricing, I know I'm going a little off topic here, but how do you price your business? Right. So in the beginning, we come out and we're like, that's the biggest question that coaches ask, is how much can I charge? And, the answer is always charge 20% more, or charge more than you think you're worth. Right. Or put yourself a little out of your comfort zone. So once I got into a rhythm and I started to come out with a package, I know you have, packages that you help me with, 9 sessions or whatever, the packages are, you start to see what works for you. And then you start to see what sells for you. And then you start to see your results. And then you get more confidence. And for me, every time I got 3 or 4 new clients, I would raise my rates, because I would say the market's telling me that there's some demand and I'm getting some results. So I would never keep my prices static in the beginning. I would always play with my pricing a little bit, not because it wasn't authentic, just because I didn't know what my worth was as a coach in the beginning. So I looked at my revenue models as fluid, not static. I don't know if that helps answer that question.
Big time.
Yeah.
I think we always need to be looking at my prices. I'm always looking at every client that hires me. I'm like, if I had charged $100 more for that package, would they have hired me? And if my answer is like, absolutely, which it typically is, I'll go up a little bit.
And, don't over explain, right? So in the beginning, when I'd had a corporate client, I would over explain my pricing, and I don't do that anymore. Like, this is what I charge. I have results. There's a return on investment. You have to really believe in the mindset piece that you mentioned earlier is a huge part of coaching. Right? Because this is go ahead.
Yeah, no, because you said because in the beginning you weren't like that, and even the business acumen, you worked in corporate, so you had a good business sense. But a lot of what you're talking about, you developed over the last 2.5 years of doing this business.
Right. So just to land the plane on the revenue question is, I knew I wasn't going to get to my end goal with one-on-one coaching and survive. Like, I knew that one-on-one coaching wouldn't get me where I needed to go. And then I was like, well, let's do a group coaching and give that a try. And there's so much scale there. And there's also a great exchange of energy when you create a group and a community, which I know you do also. And then I just worked into workshops. So then when I do my budget at the end of the year, or my prospecting, I include all those things in there. And then I know how to put myself out in the marketplace. I can do workshops, and then I put that on my website. I can do group coaching. I can do one-on-one. And it just diversifies your revenue. So I do know where my revenue is coming from, and I know where my intention is. And I think that's important.
Very important. Yeah. And that's where, so you paid attention to what was working in the market, what was selling, what wasn't selling, who was hiring you, why they were hiring you, understood where your clients were coming from, understood, after, like you said, 4 hours of working with one-on clients, like, oh, I'm done. So how am I ever going to hit a six-figure income if I need to have, four sessions a day, 5 days a week? There's no way I'm going to be able to handle that even emotionally. Right.
Right.
So I had to diversify in that respect.
Yep.
So there's a lot of understanding and tweaking along the way.
And I'm still doing that. I'm still like changing my business model every day. That's like, I think the beauty of being an entrepreneur is you get to decide, what you want to do. And you can really run with that. So if I'm going to do a podcast in a couple of weeks with a former colleague of mine. And if it doesn't work, we won't do it again. Like there's no tragic mistakes. Losing a client, not a tragic mistake. Pricing yourself too low. It's just all information. So the IPEC principle of levity really worked for me. And by the way, hard one for me because I came from a corporate environment where levity was not one of our top traits.
Fair, very fair. Talk about how you get yourself out there. There's so many coaches right now. Oh my God, how do I get out there? And it's scary. And like, do I call people? You're talking about podcasts. Like, what have you found this is for yourself. What have you found or what have you done that has given you the most exposure that's leads you to maybe your best results?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So if you had asked me pre-COVID, I would have been like, I was out networking, doing lunches and that sort of thing. And that sort of course, dried up during COVID. And then I really had to bring myself online. Your email that I write as a result of my working relationship with you goes out every 2 weeks. And being online, social, I'm on really heavy on LinkedIn and Instagram because that's where my audience is. Or I think that's where my audience is. Definitely more LinkedIn, but I think Instagram's important for branding for me. So I think a social presence, you don't have to be on TikTok. You don't have to be everywhere. I think you do have to have intention, and I think you have to just be consistent on the platform that you pick. But I don't think you can really be, I don't want to say this, but I think a social presence is almost the price of entry for being a coach, because how else are you going to be visible? That's one question. One answer to your question is social. The other was networking like crazy. Like, people. Connect with them. Say, I'm a coach. I'd love to just do a free workshop for you. I'd love to talk to your team. I'd love to talk to you about what I do. And you helped me with that. Like, you are the sum of all the years of experience that you've been on this earth, whether you're 20 or you're 60, people. So start with the people like think about circles. The small circle is your small, it can be your family, it can be your relatives, but there's always a place to start. So if you're a new coach out there, don't be afraid of talking to your best friends. One of my best friends took my group coaching program. I was so stressed out. I was like, you really want to take the program? And she did, so don't make assumptions and start small.
That's really good advice. And it's also, it's right there. And I like what you just said is don't make assumptions. There's so many people that we do know that we just assume like, oh, they wouldn't work with me. They couldn't help me. They don't know anybody. Yet when you just did it, like it's hard to break that barrier and just start. And those are the things that like, well, we just got to start asking these people and the words you use, like, I'd love to do a talk. Who do you know? It's some of those fundamentals that start to open the doors.
And that stuff is in your head. And I work with so many people in career transition. So like very few people use LinkedIn to its highest and best potential. Like you have 500 people in your network, just start sending some notes, authentic notes. Don't do a blanket, don't spam people, but we all have networks.
How did you get through doing all that stuff initially when maybe you're getting nothing back? Like you said earlier, it's easier when you're getting results, right? So, I just got a client yesterday. So, okay, there's results and I'm getting paid. Now rewind at the beginning of that wind up phase, right? This is your second full year. So you had call it a half year of whatever, a full year we worked together. And then this is the year where it's just like, wow, I passed the 6-figure mark and now we're going beyond there. But how did you get past the grind of starting it all up where, because you were getting clients, we were working together, you're starting to get clients fairly soon. You were somewhat fearless, I'd say, and starting to reach out to people. How do you get past the pieces where nothing's happening yet?
So you're giving me a lot of credit. I had a tremendous amount of fear and I still do, but I worked through it. When I wasn't getting the results, instead of beating myself up, which is I think our normal human tendency, I looked at it as planting seeds. and right when I started, COVID came out pretty quickly. So I was talking to people that had never met me in the beginning, like, people I was networking with, people are like, you should talk to this person. And I still have some clients that were early on, or some prospects that have never pulled the trigger with me, but are still in my orbit. And you probably do too. That you can see them opening your emails, you can see them, commenting on LinkedIn or liking a post, but they're still not working with you. And then I realized maybe that's just more about where they are at versus me. But in the beginning, I really just said, I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to build a business. And I didn't get so down on myself. I just kept doing it. Like, your advice to me was gold, which is look at how you're getting the business. Put your intention on how you're getting the business. And it wasn't on social. It was referrals in the beginning for me.
Yeah, you did get some good referrals. Talk about that just a little bit more. Like, my advice to you, like, understand how you're getting the business. What's your explanation on what that looks like for you?
How I'm getting the business. So in the beginning, it was people I knew that had not worked with me, but maybe knew me in my corporate career. So so one thing you did for me, if I go back to the very beginning, and I just did a post on this on LinkedIn, was was my announcement into my coaching career. Like, I was so afraid of that. It looks like absolute dog do. And like, I went back and looked at the post. And I was like, wow, I didn't know how to format this. It's horrible. But I did it, and I got 20,000 views, I think, on LinkedIn, which was huge for me. I still haven't had a post that big. People really root your success. So and I got a client from that. Somebody that reached out to me and said, hey, can you help me with executive presence? So once I started putting myself out there, I hope this is answering your question.
Yeah.
People started to reach out to me, and then I was able to have conversations. But unless you make yourself somewhat visible, how are they going to do that? Or unless you're going to reach out and talk to people, maybe you give yourself a list of, I want to reach out to 5 new people today. Or 5 new people this week on LinkedIn, or whatever networks you're on, or even maybe it's not a network, just people that you used to work with. So I think I just started there, and it builds. It just builds on itself. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think it was easy, but it was enjoyable because I love coaching. I love what I did. So it didn't feel like work to me so much.
You kept your focus on what you liked and what you wanted at the end of the process, where you rewind, where you said, oh, I'm scared, which always blew me away. Like, you came to our calls, and you'd always tell me, oh my God, I was so scared today. I'm coming to the call, I'm shaking, and you're giving me all this stuff. And I get off the phone, and I'm freaking out because all this stuff, but you never came across that way.
Oh, I'm scared. I was scared.
Yeah. And, but you also always did the work.
Yeah.
You always received the mentoring, that's the work that we did, and you did the work. And it's the culmination of that effort over time. And it's 2.5 years. It's not a long period of time, but it also can, when you're starting off, it's like, oh man, I got to wait 1.5 years to get a 6-figure income. And not that we, a certain amount of time, but it's like, yeah, look at where you're at now. Look at what you've learned. You become more valuable. Where do you feel you've become the most valuable over the last 2.5 years that's allowed you to create this type of result?
It's a great question. And what really just comes up for me is I really believe I'm a good coach and I can help people. I really believe in the coaching training I've had. I really believe in the power of coaching and the power to help people change their lives. And that's such a huge motivator for me. And so I've learned, in the beginning, I used to prepare for my sessions and worry about the outcome, which of course we're not supposed to do in coaching, but I was so tense about it. I really wanted to prove my worth. And now I'm a little more relaxed about the fact that this is about the client, and that if we allow the session to go the way it's supposed to go, in other words, what the client wants, it works. Just a little bit of ease for me, which is really opposite of what you think is what makes you successful.
The ease, that's big thing. Ease of what you do. And the more we do it with a sense of ease. Where in the beginning, it's more forced and we're using our muscle. It's like, I've done this exercise. I know we're almost done in a live group where I open it up and I'll say, I'll stand up and say, drop your hand down and take your other hand down and pull it down and try and slap your hand. And people do that. And then I'll say, put your hand and just allow it, just let it fall. Just let it fall. And the sound of the ease of just letting it fall versus trying to muscle it way through. It's just a great example of it's in the flow. It's authentic. It's real. And when you get a little bit nervous, you breathe through it. You keep the end in mind. This is what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah.
And it allows you to take the action that's going to lead you to the result.
Yeah. I mean, the ease part is so new for me. And it's really just a beautiful thing. I love that exercise. I might ask you about that because I really think that's such a big thing. But, you think starting a business is not about ease. And maybe you asked me what I think I've learned the most, but that is one of my greatest learnings is that, look, if a client doesn't hire me, maybe we weren't meant to be together. Don't tangle yourself in a pretzel to close a deal if it's not the right deal for you. You know what I mean? And I didn't believe in myself enough in the beginning because I didn't have enough evidence to support it. And now I'm like, hey,
Yes.
Now talk to me in 2 years if I get no other clients is a different story. But that's, I might be back as the doubter. But I really do believe in my coaching ability, and
you understand the process.
And the process works, and I continue training. I take courses, and I want to learn from people like you, and I'm taking classes, and I just really enjoy the process.
Yeah. Donna, so excited for where you're at. And like I said in an email I sent to everybody, it's no surprise you're here. No surprise at all, knowing what I know about you and obviously what people are seeing and watching now. I'm excited for the future. You've got a book in store. What else we got in store? Anything up your sleeve?
Definitely a book. I would love to do keynote speeches, which I have not done yet. So that's on my wish list. I do write down every year. I write down my wish list and my dreams for the year, not only my budget, and I look at it every day. Write the damn book is with an exclamation point right there. Create a Slack channel for one of my group programs. I've never done that. And do digital courses, which I have never done. I have a course, but I don't have a fully digital course. So I have a lot in the works. But if I could give one final comment is trust the process. Yeah. Trust the process. I know when they say that to us in coaching, it's hard to trust the process, but you are exactly where you're supposed to be. I mean, and I believe that, but it was hard. It was a hard pill to swallow for me in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I know your website's under construction. You're doing a new one right now.
Yes.
I'm gonna put your website in the chat for everyone to see, so they have that as well. So you can go there. Definitely opt into her list from there, so you can kind of see what she's doing in this ease that she's talking about there.
And if you are a new coach, I just want to give you more props that I would not be where I am today if I did not hire you to help me not only start, but stay with me on this journey. So it is one of the most important things I did is invest in myself. And it's hard as a new coach to make additional investments because you maybe spent money on coaching school or whatever, coaching certification or whatever. Hire somebody to support you. We are not meant to do this alone. And it is have an accountability partner, and hiring Jeff was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Well, thank you very much. And it was one of the best decisions ever working with you because it's been awesome. And this is only forward moving from here. So I can't wait to have you on again at some point in the future, obviously when you have your book.
And I want the t-shirt. If I come back for a third time.
Okay, we'll do it.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks to everyone that's watching, and take care, everyone. We'll talk to you next week.
All
Bye,
right,
everyone.
Thank you.